An Amazing Grace.
No less day.
Catherine McGill, thank you for joining us on Coloris.
Thank you for having me.
Why is Amazing Grace particularly important for you?
Music is a part of every part of my life. Every joy and every sorrow. And I know that when I'm able to allow my soul to sing, that it naturally is going to heal me. Going to church was always just a part of what we did, and my mother was I think that if I could say I knew somebody who was a true Christian, my mother was. Ruby Carter, she was a teacher. She was raising 5 kids on a teacher's salary, but she always found ways to give back and to try to teach us how to be good people and how to do the right thing when nobody's looking. And I remember that Amazing Grace was kind of the soundtrack of our lives. Like, we'd go to church and the deacons and the deaconess would be singing a cappella this song, Amazing Grace. And so I learned it when I heard it from the time I knew that there was music. I knew that song.
Can you tell us about the history of the song?
John Newton, who was the captain of a slave ship on the coast of Sierra Leone, was transporting people who were enslaved. And he had this transformation, and he wrote the story of that transformation in Amazing Grace when he said, "I was blind, but now I see." When he looked into the faces of people who were considered to be chattel property, they were not considered to be human. They were actually listed as cargo. And when you look into someone's eyes, you have to say, this is a real person, and I can no longer view them as chattel. I was blind and now I see. And so that story has significant metaphors for our lives. It's like, what are we blind about? What if we take a deeper look? Will we see?
His story is interesting because it did take him a while to make that change.
It took him a while. And it takes some of us a while to make those changes. I'm still trying to make lots of changes that I'd like to make. But, he got there. And his getting there tells us that it's possible for everybody to do that.
And how is Amazing Grace about our daily interactions?
It is about being in a situation that you look at and you start to say, it isn't what it seems just on the surface. When I go deeper, when I look further, when I look beyond people's imperfections to their heart and to their intent, I can offer them a compassion. I can offer them that love that might not be possible otherwise.
What is mental imaging, and why is that important? It sounds like you're doing a little of that.
Yeah, and I think, so when I look at you, I might have some impressions about, well, who is this woman sitting in front of me with beautiful pink blouse and, great smile and beautiful voice. But I might have some things that I bring in with me, those sort of things. Well, you have to think these things about, this woman, she's a white woman. What does that mean? I'm a black woman. When you see me, what does that mean? If somebody's walking down a dark street and you see a young black man walking up behind you, what does that mean? So in your head, you have this image of what that means and who that person is that may be completely erroneous, and in most cases is. And so if you take the time to say, I want to evaluate people on an individual basis. I don't want to bring with me something somebody told me that I should think about them. And so I want to figure out how I remove those stereotypes and remove those things that I've been told that I have to think and really just look at the person. If you don't like me because you think that I'm not a good person, I'm so okay with that. But if it's because you think that because of the color of my skin that makes me inferior, then we got a problem.
But it can also be something positive.
It can be something positive. It totally is something positive, and I think that's the way we want to look at it, to say, because what it is that introspection that we all, I think, have to engage in to say, okay, let me evaluate this. Is this really what's happening? Or did I bring in some other stuff to this that I need to remove from the situation? What's my lens in this particular situation? Is it that Course in Miracles talks about, the thing is never really the thing. What we believe is based on something that we've been told. So evaluate that in every situation, I think. And it's a daily, minute by minute, hour by hour challenge.
As individuals, how can we come to this realization?
I think you just have to stipulate that it is happening, even in this moment. As you're looking at me, as you're looking at any other person in your life, you're doing it every single moment. So you also have the ability to undo it if you're conscious, if you become aware of those areas in your life where your unconscious racism or your unconscious sexism is affecting other people. Then you're required, I think, to say, I'm going to take a look at it. And I can. I have that ability.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved and set me free. I once was lost, oh, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many, many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already, I've already come, I've already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safe, brought me safe thus far. And I know grace will lead me on. When we've been there 10,000, 10,000